Can I put the AMA from Jeff?
So you find this rust.
Hey guys. Hello everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday. It's already been another week, if you can believe it. Hey, are you on your bike again?
Senseless bikes. Always.
Always on a bike. Oh gosh. Well, try not to die. That'd be good. Cool. No idea how you manage the muting and unmuting while on a bike. Kudos for that.
I can ride handsless, like without hands, staring at my phone, hoping I would. It's like I have that much faith.
Holy crap. Nah, I haven't ridden like that since I was a teenager. You know? Cool. So let me go ahead and, you know what? Let's do this a little bit differently this time. Let me double check something real quick. I'm gonna kick myself later for having done this because I have not done my hair today. But for all of you not riding your bikes, actually wait, I can't turn on my video. Once I turn on my video, it limits it to 25 people. Darn it. So got to leave the video off so more people can join. Next time, maybe I'll do video on a different platform. Right, so this is the weekly AMA. Basically, it's a chance for you guys to ask me anything. That's what AMA means. Before you do ask me random stuff, my name is Jeff. I'm from tech at MXC. Head of development, actually, technically is the fun title, but who cares about titles these days? Basically, I can answer your tech questions about stuff. Most stuff. Not all stuff, most stuff. I'll give you as much insight as I possibly can on what's coming up. And just... yeah, some things obviously can't quite be answered yet just because some things are still so far in development that we're not quite sure how it's going to be done. So with that, yeah. But in the meantime, I hope some of you brought some questions. If not, I will be more than happy to geek out with everybody here about like Star Wars stuff. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so there's always that. So whoever's first, whoever wants to jump in, ask a question. Silent room today. I'm digging it.
Jeff?
Yo.
Yeah, I do have one question about shipping delays. Do you have any updates on this question? Or I know it's not.
I mean, I can give you what I know. I know that. Wait, which region are you in?
Europe.
There was a massive amount of miners that came in from Europe, from the factory for Europe. It depends on when you ordered, right? So people who ordered a while ago will probably be seeing stuff coming through in the next week or so. People, and I think there's some people from the sales team listening to me right now being like, "Oh, don't say that, Jeff." But there was a big shipment that came in from the factory. So they should be going out soon. If you're not in Europe, then you got to wait for the next shipment, which I'm not sure when that comes in.
Okay, thank you very much. And are you trying to do like something about shipping now? I guess you mentioned that last time, no? That they were trying.
I mean, yeah, we're working on a tool to help people see progress a little bit better. There are some ideas going around in the company on how best to do that and make it so it's an accurate tool for you guys to view. So there is items on that. I personally have not worked on it that much because I've been working on mostly interviewing people, to be quite honest. Tons of interviews. It's really exciting. Bringing in new people to help us build this stuff out a little faster. And then, of course, the documentation, which is in GitHub. And also, the Data Dash app is now public in GitHub as well. So anybody who wants to can see progress on the app and what's coming up with the app. So all that's fully available for anybody who wants to look at it.
And my final question is, what are the next big steps from your side? Maybe also from the tech side. What are you working on? Like I feel like I'm interested, from such stuff.
Yeah. Well, for me right now, as I've reiterated a few times, I want to take a look at the foundation of what we're doing and see what can be improved on it. Right now, there's going to be a phase of refactoring going through, just making, because we've done a lot of cool stuff and built, and now it's time to go and make sure that it's the most efficient possible. And for that, following that, we'll probably start working on like the next big thing is the devices. Like that's actually hot on the press right now. I know that device provisioning hot on the press. I keep saying that, but it's actually really hot on the press. Like it's been going through testing the last few days on our final set server, like its final stage of testing. So it's really exciting. So device provisioning will be coming out soon. And then following that, there's massive refactoring. And then following that, we'll start working on more of the device payment structure.
Hey, Jeff, quick question about Bitcoin mining. Will that be given out by per account or per miner?
That'll be per miner. Right now, you're seeing it looks like per account because not every miner somebody has is being used because we just need to limit the test. But it will be per miner.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, ever since like the export revenue feature came out, I mean, I exported my revenue, and not one day I ever made $14 a day. And everyone says that they haven't made $14 not one time. Usually it's around like $10 or $11 a day, and that's pretty much for everybody, I think.
I mean, so the range is user reported. Like I don't. There's different factors that determine what the range is. And I guess just keep asking around. Just like somebody at some point must have reported the 14, otherwise it wouldn't be out there as what's being done.
Yeah, every person
But
I
like I
seen
can't say.
and asked, like, I don't think not anyone has ever hit that 14 mark yet.
Okay. Well, I like personally don't.
There's been a couple. Yeah.
I could in theory dig around and figure that out, but that'd be sharing other people's information with you guys, which I can't do.
So I have a question, Jeff.
Yep, go for it.
So the algorithm that determines like 10 to 14, or just like any of the other like algorithms between that are like behind some of the calculations made for the different programs and features, will those ever be made available for just so like the community can like understand some of these features a little bit better, or
well, it's all moving into
kind
minor
of-
health, right?
Right.
And so what determines the base rate is very much proof of participation. It's been set. And then from that, the minor health determines which range of the base rate's received. And it's all migrating to that. So in the future, it will be strictly minor health that determines the amount of base rate that is received by the user. And that is a migration period going through right now.
Could you talk to us a little bit more about Polkadot potentially being mined and what the timetable is on that?
Timetable is going to be not very soon. I'll say that. Simply because I haven't dug into it in much depth myself yet. I mean, there's people looking into it right now, but I haven't yet put it on the okay, we're building this right now. So I need to I want to improve on the minor health a bit and make sure that's working as intended. It is working as intended, but I want to make sure that it's meeting the goals that we've set for it. And then we have some database restructuring to do, which will improve the speed of the application overall, as well as the speed of development and adding new features. And then after the restructuring, we'll start working on more of the device-specific options. For the Polkadot and Dot integration, I am bringing on more blockchain developers on team. I have multiple interviews coming up for that right now, and they'll start working with that structure when they come on board.
Cool, thank you. Just one more quick question. Could you share a little bit of info about the one-sided liquidity pool that's coming up on Uniswap?
I personally know very little about that. I mean, there's other team members that have been monitoring that and managing that and building that out. So I would not be able to provide any useful information on that personally. So sorry for that.
Cool, thanks again, man.
Yep.
Yeah, have you seen, like,
So-
one of my friends shared this picture with me. He has his miner on his roof, and it looks like the connectors, like, they have some kind of gold paint or coating on it, and it seems like it's like melting off. Like it was running all down as miners. Miners like half orange. I mean, is there some? Are those connectors? Are you supposed to like waterproof them, or is it safe to put outside? He
If
shared the
there's
picture.
something like that going on, he needs to contact support because there might be a manufacturing defect that didn't get the waterproofing done properly. And if that's the case, then contact support. There will be either parts sent for fixing it, or if there's damage to the device, we'll replace it.
All right, so it's
Has
fine.
there been any
It's fine.
Has there been any more talk about fuel tank in regards to potentially implementing a tier stage or having a cap on it, or are all the decisions finalized?
At this point, I think the decision's finalized. There's not going to be that added in. I mean, maybe things will be revisited at the future, but from what I'm hearing, it's focusing on moving forward. It is unfortunate the way everything was communicated. I think a change in the communication wouldn't obviously have made everybody super happy about the change, but would have made it less fearful. And so, in its essence, just to reiterate, the fuel tank is a modification for having, right? So instead of just having everybody across the board, the goal was to provide a methodology that allowed users to determine when they would quote unquote be halved. And so it was kind of the goal was to put that into the users' hands in sense, which is why the marketing ran with that phrase, which so many of you have said you hate. So apologize for that. But it was the overall goal was to kind of make it okay. How do we make it so it's user driven, community driven on what happens? And so it's unfortunate the way it was communicated. I do not foresee any major changes happening to miner health in the near future. On that regard.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry if I'm just kind of hogging on the questions. So just one more quick question about NFT. Do you have any information to share on those? Do we receive payment per NFT, or well, just if you can talk a little bit more about that?
Okay, so all I can say is basically what's already in the article. So if you guys have read the article, basically I'll just be reiterating that it's very much a governance-based NFT. So it allows participants or owners of said NFTs to help make company decisions and what's being done, right? Going into the direction more, I would say more or less similar to a DAO, but I wouldn't call it exactly a DAO because MXT is technically not a DAO. But it allows more, let's say, community governance over the actions done by the foundation.
So it'll be used more as a vote token as opposed to anything that's monetized.
Yeah, at this stage, that is what I see that being used as.
Cool.
It does come with a dividend, I think, is what was in the article, if that's what you're referring to, Sui.
Okay, so if there's the dividend, but I think that the goal of the NFT is really the governance.
Mm-hmm. Right. Would you be able to talk about the just speaking of like the NFTs? Would you have any insight about the eligibility requirements or like the calculations that were put in that article? I know like it's pretty technical. Okay.
I don't have any insight on that. Like that's all outlined in the article. I wouldn't be able to elaborate further, and I probably should be studying the article in more depth myself, to be quite honest. Because that's kind of the outline of where we're going and how it's going to be built. And yeah, so that is all in the article. Everything in the article is in very big detail or highly outlined. And maybe we'll start working on a simplified version of the article to make it just like a fact sheet of sorts, to make that easier to understand.
So I need to go back and read through the article, but so we are not getting dividends, or
we are. As Tavern said, there are dividends mentioned in the article.
Okay.
And Jeff, adding on that a little more, I saw with the recent app update, when you click the add token, there is now an NFT section where you can't actually check the box. It just says coming soon. So I'm assuming you guys have that slotted for upcoming sprints, but it should be on the horizon soon.
It should be on the horizon. I mean, coming soon in the app, it's also looking at interest on it, right? If you look at how MVPs are done for different sections, if people tap on something that's kind of grayed out like that, that tap is technically being able to be counted. And so people are able to judge, okay, interest, which helps build prioritization, right?
Awesome. That sounds good.
So as more people look at it, or more people are like touching that part of it, being like, oh, does this do anything? I know it says coming soon, it's all grayed out, so it kind of discourages people to tap on it. But there's still some feedback that comes in from that allows us to prioritize features in the future, and that's kind of how I want to work in the future with that. Is we'll put some, maybe add some features to the app that are kind of not fully fledged and kind of like minimal viable product status. Like you click on it, and then it comes up a screen that says, okay, thanks for you're interested in this feature, we're working on it, type thing, which then helps us prioritize feature development.
On that regard, Jeff, could you go over, I saw in Discord about being part of the beta testing, so that command within Discord and then filling out the Google group. So what's the expectation then of like being able to provide feedback or just how we could help improve for you guys before you go live to the public?
Yeah, basically, what I'm looking to do, and it's still a process to do that. But once you're in the system, at the moment, you just get early access to the next release. And then you get a chance to give me all the fun insights you have and everything that's not working or is working or that you expected that didn't happen. I have, as I mentioned, let me pull it up real quick. I've made the app public on GitHub. So in the future, I'll be writing a guide on how to put a bug report directly on GitHub. So it's directly with our developers, and then can be prioritized. And then the users who submit it will then be able to see, okay, they're working on this bug, or, this bug's been pushed off for this reason, or more details are needed about the bug, and you'll be able to have a chance to work directly with the development team on that. I'm going to go ahead and post that to the general channel here. Let's do that. That's where the app is. We didn't have a name for it when we first started developing it. That's why it's called the Supernode app on the repo. But you'll be able to take a look there at the whole app. You'll see all the pull requests. Some of them are kind of old. Some of them are kind of new. The older ones probably won't be merged. But that in general provides insight. And if you guys were to then like go through the README and figure out how to run it and run the different branches, you would technically have an opportunity to see pretty much anything coming up in the Data app before we may or may not announce it. So you can get as involved in that as you want to. I'm open to also communicate. If you guys know Dart and Flutter and you see an issue and you want to fix it yourselves, great. We're also going to start posting all the issues we know about to the issues channel so that any participants or community members want to dig in and work with the app and get things fixed faster than we can do it ourselves. Are welcome to participate as well. You don't have to, but it's an option. But most of all, for the beta testers, you'll have access to an early release version of the app that will be either for a weekend or for a week, depending on the priority of the release. Like if it's fixing a pretty big bug, I'm probably going to try to send it out a bit faster. And then after that period of time, we'll then roll out the app to the public if there aren't any major issues. And during the beta, the thing is that a public beta or a beta that is released to public members takes about 2 to 3 days to approve. So during the beta time, there'll be maybe one additional fix done and then tested if there's time for that. Otherwise, we'll get all your feedback. We'll incorporate all the feedback or as much of it as we can and then resubmit to the new version for final release. Just depends on the time. So my goal in the future actually is to have a 4-week development cycle, right? So we have a 2-week sprint that is developing the new feature, and then a 2-week sprint that is QA in the new feature with the beta users, right? So we have the QA working with it. We also have the beta test out so that the users are able to work with it as well. And then at the end of that 2-week sprint, we roll out the feature. But that also means that all new features have a 4-week minimal development time, which is then a little longer than we currently do. Will you have hot fixes as well in between release cycles? Hot fixes, potentially, yes. Not always. It depends on the priority of the fix, right? So if it's a super high, by the way, that was a question in general chat. If it's a super high issue where maybe somebody you tap top up and it doesn't work, or you tap withdraw and it doesn't work, then definitely hot fix immediately. Yeah. But if it's something that's not as critical, then it can wait to the release, because every time we run through a release, there's always the process that has to be done. There's always final testing that has to be done, and I always do a full round of everything just to make sure everything's good. And as you can see, if you look at the code, the automated tests are out of date and need to be updated. Ha ha ha. So everything's manually tested at the moment. So it takes time. So at the moment, when the automated tests are better, let's say, integrated, we might be able to do hot fixes more easily. But until that's done, then we have to manually test for release, and it'll stick within the development cycle. Then there was another question from same user in general chat that is AMA extending grace period from 3 months to 10 months. I do not see that happening at this stage. I don't see anything going back and reworking the system at that point. The foundations and how it's built and how it's designed and what it functions on might be reworked, but the initial terms of that I don't see changing in the near future. So another question from Bootloader. I'm getting the question. You guys aren't wanting to talk to me anymore. You just want to ask the questions in general chat. I can deal with that. Just like talking to myself. Yeah.
Could you please just explain again the grace period? Like what is it like when I receive a new miner, right?
Yeah. When you receive a new miner, you have 90 days before the miner health applies. But during that time, your fuel tank still increases in size. It just doesn't dock your mining health. So 3 months are guaranteed at the base rate, basically, no matter what. So you could be pulling everything out. You could have it in your basement. You could have it upside down, right? And you'd still mine at the full amount for 3 months. But at the end of the 3 months, the miner health applies, and it'll be docked from the base rate based on the health of the miner.
So, but it means that if after like 2 months or 3 months, if I withdraw like all my EMXC, when the grace period starts now, if the fuel now is at 0%, I won't make the maximum of the mining now. So you will still have to.
Yeah, you still need to put the MXC back.
Okay.
Like I personally, this is like I don't want to be like giving you guys investment advice because it's not what I do. But personally, it's a plug-in. Leave it alone. Let it do its thing, and then in a little bit of time, take out what you want. Type thing. Yo, Mr. Bike Ride.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, there's a giant truck. Wait. There's a giant truck. I need to wait.
Okay, no worries.
Okay. For the grace period, wouldn't it be better if you incentivize people to get more miners? So that, because if they get a second miner and can only take out from the second newly plugged in miner when nothing is in there, that doesn't make any sense. Can you follow me on that? That if I get one miner, let it mine for like 10 months, and then I get my second miner and put it online, wouldn't it be nicer if I could pull from my first miner and get the grace period there?
Maybe, but the way it's programmed right now is basically the grace period is based on the initial date of registration of the miner, and it's not transferable. So I mean, it's an idea. I can note the idea. I'll write that down.
Because that would incentivize people to get more miners. Now you currently have a problem with people getting more miners. You get me?
I understand.
Because
I
can understand hosting one, but I can't understand hosting 2 or more. So you make the grace period apply for the first or the last miner in line. Like my first miner gets the grace period, and I have to put on the second miner on full blast, so I get the full rate again with the second miner. The first miner doesn't get it then. So that could be a way to pay taxes and stuff, because I'm waiting on a clue about taxes, because Germany just nuked the whole tax thing.
Right.
With a new update.
I need to look at that.
I will get to that later, because it doesn't apply right now, because you're talking about technology and not taxes. Because any Germans in the chat? Are there any Germans here?
Well, I'm in Germany, but I don't know if there's any other Germans in the chat.
But I don't think you fall under the German tax law, do you?
Oh, I do. I make money in Germany.
Okay, then good luck with mining and staking and stuff like that.
Yeah, I need to look into it more, because that's a thing to look at.
BMF site and download the thing, because they just nuked staking, lending, and mining. It's basically it's China for Germany.
Is it 10 years? Is that what they did? They made it 10 years?
Everything, wait. As far as I understand it, if you're a miner, you need to be a company. You need to register a company on your name and pay taxes on the incoming stuff that you get. Like every coin needs to be taxed, and every outgoing coin, the percentage you make if the coin goes up needs to be taxed too. So it's different.
Hey, welcome to U.S. law.
Tax stamps on both. Staking, it's even worse because you get 10 years. Wait, for mining, the 10 years doesn't kind of not apply. But for staking, lending, and all the other stuff, DeFi in general, if you lock your coins, you get 10 years on those coins, and everything incoming needs to be taxed. And everything outcoming, the gains you make, needs to be taxed again. And if you put it again into lending or staking, 10 years more. So we might have a problem in Germany now.
Yeah, Germany used to be super cool for crypto.
What I can't understand is the Finanzamt just didn't take away the 1 year hodl period. Yeah, I can buy a Bitcoin, hodl it for 1 year, and then sell it tax free. That still applies. They didn't take that away, but they nuked staking and the other stuff. It's like they don't understand it, they don't want it, and now you can't.
I think we have a couple of questions in the general chat.
Okay, wait,
I'll take a look.
I stopped my rant now. I need to bike again. So you can ask some more questions. Bye-bye.
Ride safe. All right. User acceptance testing. Yeah. Basically. Focus on fixes, not improvements after evaluation and testing. Yine. Oh, sorry, that's yes and no. I want improvements as well. Suggestions, everything you guys think can be improved on the app for the beta. Obviously, we might not get into the improvements immediately, but I want the feedback, because without the feedback, we're not going to know what we need to improve, right? So just the same, bugs can be submitted in GitHub, suggestions can be submitted in GitHub, all those things. And I'll be writing an article on how to do that so everybody's aware and how to participate and how to submit issues. So we decided to participate in the app testing. Are we able to use different device other than the one we're using today for official release?
So right now we're being incentivized to buy a miner by being paid out in MXC tokens until the full network.
Yeah, I don't know if you cut out. I don't know if that was the end of your question. We can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So is there a time frame when we will stop getting paid the MXC tokens and switch over fully to how the network works?
No, proof of participation will continue. Like, I personally at this point, I have to add these disclaimers. In the current plan at this point, I don't see an end to proof of participation. There's always gonna be some level of base pay, because not everybody is in an area that has tons and tons and tons of IoT devices. Yet IoT devices don't show up unless there's an active network, right? It's this chicken before egg or egg before chicken type conundrum, right? You've got people that want to use devices, but they don't have a network to use it on. Because of that, they decide to go with a telecom or SIM card device technology because there's already a wireless network provided. Whereas they would have gone with LoRa or LPWAN or the technology that we use if there was a network available. So there will always be some base reward for the users in rural areas or urban areas or wherever. If there's no devices around, there'll still be a base reward. So that they can, have the base reward and still make something for providing the network, because that'll also attract the devices to it in the long run.
Fantastic, thank you. Because I got about 10 miners here, but I don't have a lot of traffic. I get almost 0 frames on most days, so that kind of helps ease my mind a little bit. I appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, if you're in a small town, if you spread those 10 miners out all over the town, then you'll have like full coverage of an entire town. Just saying.
Yeah, like how is the altitude going to be calculated? Like, what if you live like below sea level? Like, is that going to hurt you if you live below sea level? Like, how high up Is there like a certain height
No.
you need to get full altitude?
No. So basically, the way that's calculated is there's not only an altimeter inside the miner, which rather pressure sensor inside the miner. There's also a GPS signal, right? So we can base the GPS signal, and we can see in a database provided by Google or other services what the altitude of ground level is in that area. So we can determine ground level, right? And that's the first step. And then we also look at other miners, if there are any in the area, and their altitude, and then from that you build a scale based on what's best possible and what's worst possible, right? And then from that is how altitude would be calculated. Now, for altitude, there was a very good point brought up by another user who said that if an antenna is attached to it, we wouldn't know that based on altitude. And so for me, altitude still needs a lot of consideration before it's actually rolled out.
Hey Jeff, this is Vanilla. How are you, man?
Doing good. Just chilling here in Berlin.
Awesome. Is it safe to assume that when you guys do plan to roll out altitude, that beforehand you'll give us some basic guidelines on suggested height and stuff like that, like not too high, not too low, whatever
Definitely.
that is? Okay.
I'll make sure that, it's all going to be documented in this cool epic documentation I've been working on, and you're going to look at it and be like, you haven't been working on it this week. I'll be like, yeah, okay, fine. But let me send that here. It's still only in GitHub because it's going to end up replacing the mxc.wiki site eventually. But let me post that in. Boom, you can look at the whole Git code and whatnot. If you go into docs, you'll see some of the docs that are coming up. Right. But it'll all be outlined there, how it's built, what it determines, and how we determine what a good altitude is and what a bad altitude is. And that'll be all there before release. And then, of course, there's also the beta testing of the app, which would give users the opportunity to interact with altitude before it's done. And for a release like altitude, there would have to be test accounts provided because it works on a different server. We're not going to roll out altitude to everybody else and then say, test it. Right. For a release like altitude, I would probably select X number of beta testers that have been active and provided good feedback in the past, and give them access to our test system so they can test it without using their own miners.
I had a question regarding the DKP. So we were about 2 weeks into the Dask Kaiser project now. Are there any insights you can provide on how that's going?
So far, there haven't been any surprises. I guess that's the best insight I can provide. So it's running well. It's running quite well.
Does it seem like some of the issues that were apparent during like the first test with I think it was like the evaluation of Bitcoin, and then like some of the issues with like the MXC evaluations, does it look like that's been fixed? Or
yeah, it looks like that, but we'll wait for the whole test to be completed to draw any final conclusions. But things like I said, there haven't been any surprises at this stage.
Cool.
Hey Jeff.
Yo.
Hey. In terms of regarding altitude, I was just thinking, could be cases like you are, let's say, 100 meters above the ground, but then you have a lot of buildings around you, and at that point, it doesn't matter how high you are, your miner is basically. So why is not something related to how many other miners you're seeing from that location, and then just scrapping the altitude and just considering that reaching this much amount of miners and then you're fine. It's not like how high you are. Basically, this is just a suggestion.
Yeah, like what if you live in a first floor apartment?
Yeah.
Well, there's a number of variables that determine the health, right? And there are different steps that different people take in order to achieve the best possible health. Like some people put it up on a really tall pole. Others might go find a tower nearby and mount it on a tower. I don't know. But with that, you're correct in the sense that there could be a bunch of buildings nearby that block signal. And with the altitude, we are taking into consideration the altitude of or relative altitude of nearby miners. So if you're at 100 meters and there's still buildings around you, but everybody else is still at ground level, right? You're still doing better than everybody else. With that, so the only way for us to accurately measure the signal strength provided by a miner would be to have an additional device that people carry around with them. Right, to certify the signal strength of their miner. So maybe in the future, that's something we could look into. There's the other option that I've been looking at how to build, and that is if there are enough miners nearby and enough devices nearby, you could cross-correlate the, cross-correlate, is that even a thing? Whatever. The information and signal strength to each miner of that device to determine the range of each miner, on a large scale using like a big data, all the devices nearby and all the miners and how they're receiving information from that device, which would allow us to also semi-automatically determine signal strength of each individual miner. But that is something that will take some time to build out. That's my ideal scenario, is that in the future, health will be optimized by being able to use the data already inside of a network, because all the miners are connected with the same system with the MX protocol. We would then be able to use the signal strength from the same device in order to determine the range of each miner, and then that would be the determining factor of health.
Yeah,
potentially.
Yeah, makes sense. One more question before I leave. The other one is, will other tokens will be considered as a fuel in the future, or only MXC will be for the fuel?
At this time, foreseeable, I would see only MXC as being fuel. I don't see any of the other multi-tokens on the multi-token mining platform to be considered required for fuel.
Okay, thanks.
Just going back to the BTC, just earning BTC in general. In the future, will that just be something that we earn passively once all of the data trading starts going live, or will we need to pair MXC with that or use fuel to earn BTC or Bitcoin?
I need to look into that in more detail. Right now, it's just testing to see whether or not the overall system works and how well it works, and whether it's equitable, right? In the sense of whether or not the resources we put into the BTC system will actually bring enough, to the people mining BTC. And so that's the current stage. And after we finish the testing that we're doing right now, if that goes really well, then we go into the next stage. Okay, now how do we make this something that's rolled out to everybody, but keep it a fair network? I don't see, this is something that I'm you're going to quote me on this in the future, be like, but you said this, but this is my thing is that I don't see the multi-token mining necessarily, well, it will be in some way influenced by health, because we want the miner to be healthy and get the best thing, but I don't think it'll be docked quite as much as MXC in the sense it is a participation mining, and so it's possible that the multi-token mining may not be influenced by health. It's possible, because that is a participation mining in its purest form. But we'll see. There's a lot of we'll see on that, because we're still building out the multi-token mining platform. We're still testing variable elements. It just sounds complicated. We're still testing stuff within it. And as that moves forward, we'll build the whole out process. But as I've specified, the whole out process, once it's built, will be published on the documentation before it goes live. I'm going to put that in there. Before it goes live. There. We're quiet today. Usually the questions are nonstop until midnight.
Yeah, now what is this orientation? What is that?
That is whether or not the miner is vertically placed or horizontally placed.
Oh, I thought it meant straight or gay.
No. It's because an upside down miner might not be a big deal.
How
actually,
my miner. How am I supposed to tell what my miner is? I don't know.
No, that's not something we dock people for. That's a
Oh,
personal.
alright.
That's not okay. Not a personal choice. I'm not gonna get into that. But that's just if it's horizontal or vertically placed, right? Because a horizontal miner will provide a great network out to space, but it's not going to help devices nearby.
I think Jimbo Jim had a question. Once proof of coverage is implemented, will there be an ideal space between devices for folks with multiple miners?
I mean, right now there's already a proximity thing. So if you're talking about devices being spaced between miners, there is proximity that is planned, not yet deployed, and may not be deployed soon, but is planned. And the current proximity is about 50 meters on that. So that is to be aware of. Though it is not deployed right now and may be modified before it is eventually deployed based on the feedback we've received on miner health. I still would say that if you have the opportunity to spread out the miners, 50 meters apart, I know that wouldn't work in my apartment because my apartment's only 65 square meters, so I couldn't spread it up. I could probably if I had two miners, I could, but no, I couldn't. Anyway, but yeah, if you can spread them out, do that. I know a lot of the guys here from the States might have that opportunity to spread things out a bit more, especially with the outdoor miner stuff. Because my parents have an acre and it's pretty cool. Anyway, that's enough about me. More questions.
Hey Jeff, with DOS Kaiser project running and it being successful as a great proof of concept for mining BTC, is it a rational thought or a fair assumption that you could apply the same technology towards other coins in the future?
Yeah, if it yes, it is possible. But it would require some onboarding. That is kind of the direction we're hoping to go, is to incorporate other tokens in. And one of the things that may end up being an option is that you'd be able to select like which tokens you'd want to mine, maybe on the miner, right? Maybe there's a limit on which ones you can do, so that the resources of the miner ends up going towards specific tokens and not trying to do it all at the same time, because that wouldn't be quite equitable. But it is intended to bring in more and more tokens into the multi-token mining ecosystem.
Great. I know this will probably be complex, but a cool feature would be maybe us being able to pick a select set of tokens in which we're bullish on, and maybe there's a calculation in which the system will see which ones are most profitable by the day and kind of focus more on that one than the other ones. If there's a limitation on resources from a hardware perspective, just putting that out there as an idea.
Yeah, it's definitely something we've actually considered. So it's an idea we're also having. It's pretty cool.
Awesome. Seems
Definitely.
like I got nothing original to add. You guys are on it. I appreciate it.
No, I mean you've added original stuff already in the past, so don't worry about that. Good. So is algorithm for 10 to 14 earnings based on opening or closing price, or is it adjusted live MXC price? It's adjusted live MXC price. I think it's taken every 10 minutes, if I remember correctly. No, wait, no. That one's not live. That one is based on That's based on 1 point throughout the day. Actually. There you go. Jimbo Jam, you can now rig the system. But it is based on 1 point without the day. I'll let you figure out when that point is. We can improve base earnings anyway at this point. Not at this point. At this moment, Morty. Maybe at some point there'll be a way to prove it, and that'll probably come into place when the devices come and roll. Right. So the base earnings are that, they're base earnings, and when devices are on the network, then there'll be additional income. Any news on BTC mining for people who didn't make the cut? The last announcement, they'll just have to wait. Sorry. That's the only thing I can say on that. It's a test. It's a closed test. There might be another closed test in the future. It might be rolled out in the future. It depends on the results of this one. And I'm cautious when it comes to this type of rollout. So it'll likely be another test in the future before a major rollout. It'll just be a larger test. With that. Cool. I think I caught up on the general chat questions. England versus Germany. Really? I can't answer that.
Hey, Jeff, bootloader here. Did you respond to my question regarding the using two devices, one for the released app and one for the beta testing app?
Yeah, I mean,
Can we log? Okay.
As long as you have, it depends. Like on iOS, definitely, because you have test flight and you can determine which apps you want to install on test flight. On Android, it might be more difficult because it's tied to your Android account and the updates are automatically provided to your account. But in theory, you could add a different Android account for your testing on a different device if you wanted to.
Yep.
Then you'd be able to do it and it wouldn't roll it out to your main account.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep. 3 to 2, 1 to 2. Okay, there's a game. There's a match going on, right? Okay, never mind.
I know with several users that have just recently received their miners lately have been saying that their uptime starts at 0% instead of 100%. Is that by design or is that a bug?
It's not really a bug. It's more along the lines of the way it was designed, but it was an unintentional feature. Bug. Unintentional feature. Basically, because it has never been online, it's going to have an uptime of 0%. Right? But don't worry about it because you have your grace period. And so by the time you are at the end of the grace period, you'll have your 7-day average.
Right. I think like it probably isn't like a major concern, but I think the only concern was like if the eligibility for NFTs takes into account your miner health during your grace period as well, that it could ding you. But if it, I guess, happens with everyone, I guess everyone would have that little bit of a ding.
Well,
although 7 days probably isn't much time.
It does happen.
Scheme of things.
Yeah, it won't make that big of a difference. I do think the NFT eligibility also depends on the age of the miner, in the sense of how long participation has been happening in the network. That said, like I'm not as familiar with the NFT plan at the moment as I probably should be. But I do think it takes a role. So even if it's at a brand new miner, it's probably going to be less eligible for an NFT because we're wanting to get first of all those that have been with us longest and know us best and are building with us into that governance model because, yeah, you guys are awesome and we love you guys, all of you. Even you, Brock, on your bike. Cool. Cool. How long does it take to refill your fuel if you decide to withdraw it into the stake feature? Well, that really depends on the size of your fuel tank, right? It's not fast. Like I can't give you exact numbers. Like it'll take 5 days, or it'll take 20 days, or 5 years, because I don't know that. It depends on the size of your fuel tank. If somebody wants to crunch the numbers, they're more than welcome to do that. The percentage increases, but your fuel actually does not really increase in the sense of more than the daily mining. Right. So my example on that, which I've used over and over again, is if you have 0 out of 99, like you had 99 in your tank and you withdrew everything, and so you have 0 in your tank, you're at 0%. But if you have the next day, you mine 1, right? Then you're at 1% because it's then 1 out of 100. So the percentage increases on this basic mathematical flow. It does take a long time. It's not fast, but it does increase. So that is one thing. So I guess in theory, if somebody wanted to like, they meet the ROI that they always wanted, right? And they're like, okay, now I'm happy. I'll cash out. It's good. It's an incentive not to just turn things off and send them, wherever. Because if you leave it on, eventually the health percentage will increase back up, and it'll continue mining that token. Okay, last question. Ooh, I'm getting a lot of last questions from different people. Under the data tab in Data Dash, or how it is determined frames transmitted received. That's basically all the frames received are transmitted by through the gate, the miner, right? So if there's devices nearby, and devices on LoRa basically send to anything that'll listen to them, really literally anything that'll listen to them, and then that message is then sent to the LoRa server. And if that device was registered on that server, then that information can then be decrypted. If it wasn't registered on that server, it's just like not saved or not done anything with it, right? So that is how that's basically work. So anything nearby that's transmitting on a LoRa signal will result in frames on your miner. I'm seeing $10 in that example. Okay. Never. 2 weeks ago, we talked about locking MXC to earn DHX with a punishment. Did you look into it? Did look into it. Did not make progress. Sorry, Jerome. At the moment, it looks like things will be staying the way they are. That said, there's still mining happening. It's still a good thing in the sense of mining's happening, and I'm really looking forward to some of the new stuff that we're bringing out for the community and for the network as a whole. Brock is riding. Brock is you're riding a bike and you're typing. So I'm picturing this in my mind right now. You're on a bike and you're typing with no hands while cycling. I'm really worried about you, man. Not gonna lie, really worried. Okay. Those that have more than one miner, are you able to mine other coins on each miner? It's each miner, not per account. The miner, it's a multi-token miner, not a multi-token account. Well, it is also a multi-token account, but it is a multi-token miner, so each miner has the multi-token potential. He has an e-bike. It's a Tesla. It's a Tesla bike. With autopilot. Is it possible to test the tax report thing? Tax report thing should be released. If you're not seeing it in your app, update it. Fanfare.
Yeah, just click on the cogwheel at the top right, and you should see the export option on that list.
Yeah. So settings toggle, export option. Check it out. Everything from the M2 Pro will be in that list. If it's not everything from the M2 Pro and you're seeing some discrepancies, do let me know. Typed with your nose. Holy cow, this guy's talented. Man, I couldn't do it. MXC Eco Initiative. Cool. Okay, let's get back to general chat. I clicked over to announcements to see what that Twitter brought through for us. When do we need to worry about proximity of miners? When I tell you to, I guess.
Like if I put my miner on my roof, is it ever in danger of overheating? What temperatures should you start getting concerned it's getting too hot? Like with the sun beating on it and the roof radiating heat from the bottom. So I'm just wondering
I would need to double check with the hardware team, but I know they're tested in an oven.
All right, so
the documentation says as down or as low as -40 and up to 80 degrees Celsius.
So there we go. I don't have the documentation in front of me. Thank you, Tavern. So up to 80 degrees Celsius, which I'll try to convert to Fahrenheit.
It's like 145 Fahrenheit or so.
145 Fahrenheit. Perfect. Most people won't reach that temperature. But keep in mind, I'm going to say this.
The roof does. I mean, if the sun's beating on the roof and, the roof gets hot, the roof,
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Is that outdoor temperature doesn't necessarily mean the temperature heating or of the miner itself. That's operating temperature of the miner. So if maybe if you want to be super careful with it, put a thermometer next to the miner inside a metal box or a plastic box of some kind, and then you'll be able to know the internal temperature of the miner close and somewhat. I don't know if there's a temperature sensor in the miner. There might be. I'll double check. If there is, maybe we should bring that in through to the users. That would be helpful, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm not really worried about it now, but when altitude goes online, if I put it up high on my roof, I don't want it to overheat or something like that.
Yeah, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. But I will look into that for you guys. So I'll look into it right now. Give me half a second. I'll write the person who knows. Okay, I just typed a note to the person in the know, and I'll get that information back at some point and let you guys know. Cool. Any word on DeFi for MXC? Nothing new, but watch the announcements. Can I make a demo of the tax thing? I can. I can also just say how it works. It takes every transaction of token distributed to the miner and uses the time of that token time and date of the token distribution and references that to a system like CoinGecko for the time and date value of the token. So basically, the second it's mined, you have the exact value of that token in the export. Is currently how it's done. So that is how it currently is done. It is current price, of the time of mining. It's the price, the point of the exact time it was mined. Okay. 2 weeks ago, we talked about locking. Okay, I answered that one already. Thank you, Jerome. Will withdrawal fees from Data Dash app drop anytime soon? I don't know. Maybe. I'll have to look into that and look at the network fees and ask those people who actually know that stuff. Okay. Thank you, Tavern, for the documentation there.
Where the fuck is that? Antenna. Oh, there's operating temperature. That doesn't say like if it overheats.
Hey, Jeff, one question. If there is no one else
Go for it.
having one. So some days back I asked about, can I hook just a usual GPS tracker, LoRa one from Dragino or some other vendors to the M2 Pro. Then somebody replied that currently it's not possible. So you guys are working possibly on firmware for these GPS trackers so that it will run MXC protocol. Is it? Are we anywhere with that soon?
Well,
or
the device system has been a bit buggy, which is why it hasn't worked. Technically, you're able to connect any LoRa device, compatible device, to the system at the moment, but there are some bugs that kind of block that. If you use the web GUI, right? Coming in the next near future, those bugs will be fixed because that's the priority of the sprint, is to get those bugs fixed. Which means that in the next few days, we'll be seeing a release for device provisioning, which is our own fancy, really cool, awesome, the most secure device provisioning system in LoRa ever built. That's how I would call it. And with that will come the fixes for the devices, so devices can be used more easily on the network.
And the other thing is, do we need to pay for data traffic for devices?
Not for your own miner, no.
For the device.
Right. If your device is on your account, the same account that hosts your miner, if your data is going through your miner, you won't pay a thing. It belongs to you.
But when it goes to the neighbors or somebody else, then I need to pay MXT.
Yeah, but you can configure it whether or not it prioritizes your miner.
Aha. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
But then it depends how much they put the downlink price, right?
Yeah. At the moment, the downlink price is set as a whole supernode thing because we still need to build in the smart machine bidding. Once the smart machine bidding is done, downlink price will be configured per miner.
And I think you can like set it up to where you can subscribe to your own service, correct?
Yep.
I think that's in, like the supernode documentation. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I got some questions. Keep in mind, Brock, the miner doesn't generate as much heat as a switch does. But yeah, I'm still waiting on responses from the hardware guy. Smart cities. More about NFTs. What is the model of that? The reward. That you'll get the best and most accurate information from the article that was written about it. So double check with that. I am less informed on that than I would like to be, and so I'm worried to answer questions and not to answer them accurately, which I will never do. So check the documentation on it. If the MXT is used as staking lock, shouldn't it be penalized? We shouldn't be penalized. Just dropping fuel, withdraw from the app. That is also something that's been discussed. I do not foresee a change in the current fuel model in the near future. So, yeah, that's just the facts for that. Then when will we be able to mine DOT? That was also already asked. It's being worked on. I'm hiring some new people to work on that. So once they're onboarded and able to produce the features, then we can have that. Bug report. Every time I unbond DHX, the screen turns black. iOS. That's good to know. Thank you for letting us know. Smart cities. Make sure to join voice chat to hear what Jeff is saying on these topics. Oh, okay. Thank you, Tavern. England just scored. Cool. Thank you, Doctor. I'll just call you Doctor. The doctor's in the house. Okay, cool.
Good
All
question,
right.
Jeff.
We've got one more question. Okay, last question.
Ooh, that's a lot of pressure.
Fine, two more questions.
All right. So since we're providing like fuel for liquidity, I guess how is that liquidity being used since the IoT data market isn't live, nor is DeFi? So how is the liquid? Is it just kind of like pulling up right now to be used in the future, or is it actually being utilized?
Yeah, that's basically what it's doing. Holding up now to be used in the future. We kind of jumped the gun on that potentially. Yeah. So it's just being prepared. Now let's have a different question that doesn't have such a interesting answer. Another question.
I guess I
If
need to
not-
take another crack at it.
go for
So in the early documentation on Medium, so they talked about the vault and the vault being like staking, right? And then they had figures in the past of up to 40% returns. Of course, now for like the 2-year staking, it's 12%. Is this something that can be changed over time, or is it just going to be static at 12% going forward?
Probably static, but I think if I remember correctly, the article, maybe I don't, that it talks about up to 40% boost, which is a boost of the standard rate, whatever that is at this time.
Right.
So
like right now, it's like a 12% boost to the standard rate versus that where they talked about it 40% in the article.
Well, it depends on the standard rate, right? So if the standard rate
Mhm.
is, I don't know, whatever percentage, and then
This is
40% boost on that
0.65%.
percentage would then bring you up to 12%, right? I'm not going to try to crunch numbers at the end of the day in my head, but that's basically how it works. So it's a boost. Okay, so this is the response from hardware team on the overheating of the miners. They should not overheat. The white plastic should not absorb sunlight, which is why we use white plastic instead of something more heavy or dark and cool looking. The gateway should not be placed directly in hot sun, though, if avoidable. The operating temperatures exceeding the gateways are graded to 85 degrees plus Celsius, but of course, extended temperature stress will degrade the gateway's lifetime. And gateway is internal talk for miner, by the way, because it's technically a lower gateway. So that is the message. I just read you guys the message directly from the hardware team. So
if they're waterproof, can I spray?
They're not waterproof. They're
Oh,
water
they're not.
resistant, and they'll survive. They'll survive in rain. Right? Don't
I'll
submerge
spray
it.
with the hose to cool
Yeah.
it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can drop some drops on it, but it is a white plastic box, which helps reduce the amount of heat it retains from being outdoors. Never heard the benefit of white plastic, huh? It's the thing. Super cool. All right, I've got to wrap up. I'm at the end of my time. Is the gateway able to be powered by PoE? It's passive PoE. It's very specific, so technically PoE, but it's not a PoE switch, so be careful with that. Don't just hook it up to a random PoE switch because that might hurt it. Be an AOE gateway. Water cooled M2. That'd be fun. I'm sure somebody could customize a water cooling system for an M2 Pro and send a picture about it, and we probably support that and like tweet it out and have fun with that. But if you're building a water cooled M2 Pro, please don't submerge it in water. Yeah, it's not made to be submerged. Okay, DX branded as different entities based on GitHub. Yeah, sure. We're working on it. We're working on DHX. It's an idea that we helped develop, and our developers are working primarily on it at the moment. However, we're not stopping anybody else from participating, and the governance, once it's released, will ensure that it functions as a DAO, right? It is a DAO. It is intended to be a DAO, and anybody who participates in development at this time is more than welcome to do so, right? And you're helping build the future of the DHX blockchain. So keep that in mind. It's pretty epic, pretty cool. Made a suggestion to DHX to improve the white paper and have proper roadmap. We just got banned. I'm not at all. I don't even think I'm a mod at the DHX Telegram. But let me show you something cool that I've published for DHX recently. Documentation. Pull request. Add short paper. I've been working on a short paper to kind of make the DHX a bit more understandable. And that probably didn't help a lot of people, but for those who understand how to read a code pull request, you can look at that. Otherwise, I will go ahead and post the MD file. Where's my brain? My brain went missing at 6 o'clock. Crud. White papers, short paper. Here's the MD file. Big, big, big warning. This is a draft. This is a draft. This is a draft. In fact, if you look at it, if you actually run the documentation, you'll see a big, big, big message. This is a draft. It's a huge caution box. Document is in draft status. But this provides a bit more information on DHX and kind of tries to. It initially was intended to be super easy. Who's Jess? Okay, cool. Go Jess. I think you meant Jeff, but I can be Jess, or if Jeff's. Oh, it's Jeff. Okay, cool. Cool. Thanks, guys. But yeah, the short paper should clarify a few things of DHX. It's supposed to be easier to understand, but I realized as I was writing it, it got more and more complicated. So sorry for that. Also, it is an open repo. Anybody can try to add their own summary of DHX and how it works and add a pull request, and then we can also merge that in. Right? So the more of us who participate in the DHX, the more DAO-y it becomes, and it's supposed to be a DAO. So participate, guys. It's pretty epic. All right, I do have to go. I've got to order some stuff for some team members, and then we'll pedal in what looks like to be a very big storm coming up, maybe. Home. But yeah, that's that. Thank you, guys. I'll chat with y'all later.
All right. Thanks, Jeff.
Yep. Bye.
Thanks, Jeff.